How are you doing, my good students? In our previous video lesson, where we were looking at the political, economic, and social organization of the Khoisan, we started by saying that the Khoisan, that is the Khoi, also known as the Hottentots, and the San, also known as the Bushmen, were the earliest inhabitants, or they were the people who lived earliest in the central and southern parts of Africa. So in our previous video lesson, we looked at the Khoi. So today I would like us to go through the San. So we start by the economic organization among the San. So when you talk about the economic organization, you should be asking yourself, or the question that should come to mind is, what did these people do for a living? What did these people do for a living? One, the San were hunters and gatherers. So they hunted small animals like antelopes, deers, and they also gathered wild fruits, roots, vegetables, and other edible plants from the bushes. So they hunted and they gathered. So that was the main economic activity. They kept hunting dogs. Of course, if you are a hunter, apart from the hunting tools, you should also have a hunting dog. So they kept hunting dogs to assist them in their day-to-day hunting. You should also note that they traded with their neighbors, the Khoi, for what they lacked. Of course, the mode of trade was mainly barter trade. So, social organization. When you talk about social organization, what should come to mind is, how did these people live with one another? What did they do during their free time? So they lived in small hunting bands of 20 to 40 members. Small groups of 20, between 20 and 40, so 20, 21. So with this, they could go hunting, they could go gathering, and so on. So they made shelters from these grasses and branches. They made simple dwelling places, so they did not sleep out there like cars. So they made shelters from grasses and branches. You should also note that they imitated animals in dances. So when they're dancing, they could imitate, for example, a hyena or other animals that were common in their areas. They could imitate ostrich and so on and so forth. The moon and the praying mantis. We said that Africans believed in a supreme being. So among the sun, the moon, and the praying mantis is an insect. They were very sacred. And you should know that the praying mantis was a representation of their god. Their traditional god was known as Kagane. So they believed that the praying mantis was a representation of their god here on earth. You should also note that they intermarried. They married among, but not within the same hunting band. So this hunting band made of 20 to 40 people, you could not marry within that band, but you could marry from the other hunting band from the neighborhood. So political organization. How are they governed? You should note that when we're talking about the Khoi, we say that they were ruled by hereditary chiefs. But among the San, we should note that the leadership was not centralized. There is not one person who had total power or who had authority. So they did not have chiefs. So how did they make their decisions? Every person, every mature adult took part in making decisions. So how did they arrive at the decisions? They did this through what they call general agreement. So they could come, sit together, and decide that this issue is affecting us, we should proceed this way. So that was what they call general agreement, also known as consensus. So that is what we are calling general agreement. And these general agreements were arrived at by all mature adults from the hunting band. Questions? Of course, we have now come to the conclusion of the Khoisan. So, of course, you should expect questions. The first one, in which two countries are the Khoisan, that is the Khoi and the San, likely to be found today? Find out. I'll be expecting this work here in school. Identify two similarities between the Khoi and the San. So, similarities. What is similar between the Khoi and the San? In political organization, how are they similar? the social organization, how are they similar? So you should identify 2 or more similarities. So identify differences, 2 differences between the Khoikhoi and the San. So how are they different? Maybe the economic activities were different, maybe the political organization, maybe the social. So identify 2 or more differences between the Khoikhoi and the San. Of course, I'll be expecting this work on every Friday. Every Friday you can bring the questions for marking. So up to that point, have a nice time and remember to keep safe.